So let's talk more about the way digital marketing feeds on consumer data. Joining us from London is Frederike Kaltheuner, a data program lead at Privacy International. Thanks for being with us. So just talk to us a little bit more about how this works. I mean, how effective are these targeted ads?
I think it's important to take a step back and remember why we're talking about this current scandal. So the hearing in both the Senate and the Congress were supposed to be about data privacy. It ended up being about lots of different issues, content on platforms, but ultimately it is about the way that companies use personal data. And as it stands, most people do not understand and cannot possibly understand the way in which companies exploit their data for advertisement. So here's an example. Facebook loves to talk about the data that you share on Facebook, but prefers to talk less about the data you share with them.
And why is that, do you think? Because it does seem that this industry there's a lot about it, as you say, that is not known. It's very opaque right now. What should be done to address that?
I think the most sensible thing to do, or that is needed, is the data ecosystem in many countries around the world is heavily under-regulated, and the current scandal shows how utterly urgent deregulation is needed. Facebook likes, or companies like Facebook, love to talk about content. They love to talk about the data that you share, because this puts the onus on the consumer. Privacy setting means that it is your responsibility to control what data people can access. But in reality, companies track you around the web. Companies track you across devices. They use this data to profile you and then target advertisement. So there's the misconception that Facebook shares data, but it allows advertisers instead to target you on very precise criteria. And this is exactly what has happened here.
And
what is needed is sensible regulation.
How effective are advertisers in doing this very kind of precise targeting?
Sure. I think, as a rule of thumb, the more you know about someone, the better you are at persuading them. A perfect example is to say, if you know that somebody is interested in, say, a particular kind of medicine, you know how to reach these people. I think on an individual level, it certainly means if you know my deepest interests, if you know where I've been, if you know the other things I have liked, this is quite effective in targeting people. It doesn't mean that that my entire worldview will be changed by seeing an advertisement, but it is the invasiveness is about finding very specific audiences, and in a political context, that becomes very problematic.
But is there a sense that perhaps this is the future in the way advertisers get to their audiences?
Facebook likes to present it, and this was evident in the hearing, that what we're seeing is a fair deal between consumers and a company. The platform is free, and in return people share data, but that is not the case. The New York Times just published a really good article that outlined how the advertisement practices on Facebook have changed over time. And what has happened is that the targeting has become ever more precise and ever more invasive. And I think it's one thing to declare that you're interested in something and receive an ad. It's something entirely different if you're being tracked around everything you do, if the company then uses these data to make fine-grained profiles on you and then target advertisement. It's not just about advertisement. I think Facebook has 2 billion users around the world, many people in very vulnerable situations, refugees, people who struggle with addiction, for example. So the platform has a responsibility to protect these people.
But you
can still make money with advertisement without targeting them at that fine-grained level.
How would you do that then?
You can just simply target people less precisely. And this is what Facebook has done in its early years. Over the years, it has gone from targeting people based on the information that they have shared, based on information from tracking them around the web. This is not inevitable. Those were company decisions that the company has made. And one change that has happened last week, many people do not know that Facebook has used data from external data brokers to target people. In the UK, and I tested this myself, one example was financial information from a data broker called Experian. Facebook now stopped this relationship, but it just shows, I don't think, how much more invasive that is. Many consumers do not expect to be targeted based on financial information if they have not shared that information with the company itself.
But doesn't this precise targeting allow companies to make more money? I mean, isn't that the reason why they're doing it? Isn't that what it's all about?
it certainly allows Facebook to make more money. It's one of the most valuable companies in the world. And the question we have to ask ourselves as a society and as people around the world is what price are we willing to pay? It's not about not making money off advertisement. The question is who pays the externalities? And I think what we've seen now, targeted advertisement seems harmless, but it has created an ecosystem that's very complex that can be hijacked by all sorts of people. One example is political advertising. Facebook is tackling that issue, but there are many more problems that the platform struggles to address. Scammers that target vulnerable people who are then buying a fake medicine. That was an issue that was brought up in the meeting in Congress. Those are one of the many issues that are a result of this very invasive tracking.
Frederike Kaltheuner, thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.